Hello everyone, my name is Rifda Kamila and my last ID is 109. Today I would like to retell a romance novel entitled Wild Affair by Margaret Chatelain. Unlike many romance stories where the main characters fall in love at first sight, this story begins with distrust, arguments, and emotional wounds that both characters have to overcome before they can truly be together. The story introduces us to Steffi Cooper, a talented graphic designer who works for Dayton Foods. On the outside, Steffi seems confident, independent, and completely devoted to her career. She enjoys her job, rarely takes holidays, and prefers spending her time working rather than socializing. Even her boss, Tom Dayton, knows that she is someone who always puts work first. However, Steffi's personality is shaped by something much deeper than simply being a hardworking woman. Years before the story begins, Steffi witnessed her older sister, May, experience a heartbreaking relationship with an Italian man named Dino. At first, Dino seemed to love May deeply. He bought her expensive gifts, took her shopping, and made her believe they had a wonderful future together. But everything changed when May became pregnant. Steffi later learned that Dino was already married and had children in Italy. Instead of taking responsibility, he offered May money for an abortion and abandoned both her and the baby. May still hoped that Dino would come back one day. Watching her sister's life fall apart left a permanent scar on Steffi's heart. Since then, they convinced herself that trusting a man would only end in pain. Because of that experience, Steffi builds an invisible wall around herself. She keeps men at a distance, avoids serious relationships, and even jokes that she has no interest in romance. To her, love is simply too risky. Everything begins to change one Saturday evening when Tom and his wife, Lorna, invite several friends to a dinner party. They secretly hope that Steffi might finally meet someone special. That someone is Gerard Wilde. Jared is introduced as a successful businessman with Italian family roots. He is tall, confident, charming, and knows exactly how to make people notice him. Unlike Steffi, Jared enjoys conversations, jokes easily with everyone around him, and seems completely comfortable in every situation. Unfortunately, the moment Steffi meets him, she dislikes him. She immediately assumes that Jared is exactly the kind of man she has spent years avoiding. Handsome, confident, and probably too used to getting whatever he wants. Jared, on the other hand, quickly noticed that Steffi is different from other women. Instead of trying to impress him, she challenges him, argues with him, and refuses to be intimidated. Their conversation soon become a battle of words. Rather than exchanging compliments, they tease each other and argue over almost everything. Every time Jared smiles, Steffi becomes even more determined not to let him get close to her. Ironically, Jared seems to enjoy seeing her reactions even more. Later that evening, something unexpected happens. While everyone else is busy downstairs, Steffi and Jared find themselves alone for a moment. The atmosphere suddenly changes. The playful arguments disappear, replaced by a silence that neither of them really understands. Jared slowly moves closer and gently tells Steffi to stop fighting her feelings for just a moment. He even promises that he will not hurt her if she truly wants him to stop. For the first time in years, Steffi feels herself lowering the emotional wall she has built for so long. For a brief moment, she almost lets herself believe that maybe Jared is different. But then, her memories of May immediately return. She remembers how love destroyed her sister's life. She remembers the betrayal, the broken promises, and the suffering that followed. Afraid that history will repeat itself, Steffi suddenly pushes Jared away before their relationship can go any further. She insists that she has every right to say no and refuses to explain the real reason behind her decision. Jared is confused because only seconds earlier he believed Steffi was beginning to trust him. After the party, both of them try to continue with their normal lives. However, neither of them can forget what happened that night. Steffi returns to work, but instead of concentrating on designing a new Italian food campaign for Dayton Foods, her thoughts keep drifting back to Jared. She becomes frustrated because she cannot understand why a man she claims to dislike keeps appearing in her mind. At the same time, Jared also becomes increasingly curious about Steffi. He realizes that beneath her cold attitude lies a woman who is carrying emotional pain that she refuses to share with anyone. Without realizing it, their complicated relationship has only just begun. After the dinner party, Steffi is determined to forget Jared Wild. She tells herself that their meetings was nothing more than an uncomfortable evening with an arrogant man. However, fate has different plans. Only a few days later, Jared comes to Dayton Foods for a business meeting with Tom. Steffi is very surprised to see him standing confidently in the office, smiling as if nothing had happened between them. Jared greets her warmly, but Steffi responds with her usual cold attitude. She wants him to think that she is completely unaffected by their last meeting, even though deep inside she is anything but calm. From that day on, they began seeing each other more often because of work. Jared's company is involved in one of Dayton Foods' business project, and Steffi, as the company's graphic designer, cannot avoid meeting him. Every encounter becomes another battle of personalities. Whenever Jared compliments her designs, Steffi suspects that he is only trying to flatter her. When Jared jokes with her, she replies with sarcastic comments instead of laughter. Surprisingly, Jared never seems offended. In fact, he enjoys watching Steffi argue with him because, unlike everyone else, she is never afraid to challenge him. He even admits to himself that Steffi's fiery personality is exactly what makes her so fascinating. Although they continue arguing, small changes slowly began to appear. Jared noticed that Steffi is not naturally cold. He observes how kind she is to her colleagues, how patient she is with clients, and how much pride she takes in her work. The only time she becomes defensive is whenever someone tries to get close to her personality. This makes Jared realize that Steffi is hiding something much deeper than simple dislike. Steffi also starts seeing a different side of Jared. Instead of acting like a careless playboy, Jared proves himself to be responsible, intelligent, and respectful. He listens carefully during business meetings, treats his employees well, and never looks down on other people. More importantly, he never forces Steffi to return his feelings. Instead, he patiently waits for her to lower the walls around her heart. Even so, Steffi refuses to trust him. Every time Jared smiles at her, she remembers Dino's charming smile before betrayed May. Every kind word Jared says reminds her that appearances can be deceiving. Steffi repeatedly tells herself that handsome and successful men cannot be trusted because she has already seen the damage they can cause. This fear becomes stronger whenever May's condition crosses her mind. May still struggles to move on from the man who destroyed her life. Even after everything that happened, she continues hoping that Dino will someday return. Seeing her sister trapped by false hope convinces Steffi that falling in love only makes people weak. She cannot bear the thought of experiencing the same heartbreak herself. As weeks pass, the attraction between Steffi and Jared becomes impossible to ignore. Sometimes they accidentally share genuine conversation before quickly returning to their usual arguments. Other times, Jared catches Steffi smiling at one of his jokes, only for her to immediately hide her experience. These small moments make Jared believe that Steffi's feelings are changing, even if she refuses to admit it. One evening, Jared finally decides to confront her honestly. He tells Steffi that she keeps judging him for mistakes he has never made. He asks her why she is so afraid to trust him when he has done nothing to hurt her. Instead of answering his questions, Steffi becomes angry. She insists that Jared knows nothing about her life and has no right to question her decisions. The conversation quickly turns into another painful argument. Jared cannot understand why Steffi kept pushing him away every time they began getting closer. Meanwhile, Steffi believes that creating distance is the only way to protect herself from future heartbreak. Neither of them realizes that they are fighting against the same problem from different sides. Jared is fighting for love, while Steffi is fighting against fear. What makes the situation even worse is that Stevie begins misunderstanding Jared's actions. Whenever she sees him talking comfortably with other women, she immediately assumes that he is flirting. Whenever he is busy with work and cannot contact her, she convinces herself that she was never important to him in the first place. Instead of asking Jared directly, she lets her own fears create stories that are not true. Jared becomes increasingly frustrated. He knows that Stevie is attracted to him because he can see it in the way she looks at him when she thinks he is not paying attention. However, every time he tries to move their relationship forward, Stevie builds another emotional wall between them. For the first time in his life, Jared realizes that winning Stevie's heart is not about romantic words or expensive gifts. It's about earning the trust of a woman who has spent years believing that love always ends in betrayal. As the emotional distance between them grows, both Stevie and Jared begin to suffer. Stevie misses him whenever they are apart, yet she cannot bring herself to admit it. Jared continues loving her, but he starts wondering whether patience alone will ever be enough to change her mind. Neither of them knows that an even bigger misunderstanding is waiting ahead, one that will test not only their feelings for each other, but also whether Stevie is finally ready to leave her painful past behind. As time goes by, the distance between Stevie and Jared becomes more painful than either of them expected. Stevie convinces herself that staying away from Jared is the safest choice because she is afraid of ending up like her sister. However, the harder she tries to ignore him, the more she realizes that he has become an important part of her life. Jared feels the same way. He no longer sees Stevie as the stubborn woman he met at a dinner party. Instead, he understands that she is someone who has spent years protecting herself from getting hurt. Just when their relationship begins to improve, another misunderstanding drives them apart. Stevie believes Jared is hiding things from her and quickly assumes that the worst whenever she sees him with other people are busy with work. Instead of asking for an explanation, she lets her fears control her. Jared is deeply hurt because despite everything he has done to prove his love, Stevie still cannot trust him. Finally, Stevie tells Jared the real reason behind her fear. She explains how her sister May fell in love with an Italian man named Dino, only to discover that he already had a wife and children. Dino abandoned May after she became pregnant, leaving her heartbroken. Ever since then, Stevie has believed that trusting a man would only lead to the same pain. For the first time, Jared truly understands her. Instead of blaming Steffi, he gently reminds her that he is not Dino and that she should not let one man's betrayal determine her future. His words make Steffi reflect on everything Jared has done. Unlike Dino, Jared has always been honest, patient, and respectful, even when she repeatedly pushed him away. Later, Steffi travels to Italy, where she finally confronts the painful memories that have haunted her for years. There, she realizes that not every love story ends in betrayal and that she has been judging Jared based on someone else's mistakes. When Steffi returns, she decides to stop running away. She admits that she loves Jared and apologizes for never giving him a fair chance. Jared happily accepts her apology because all he has ever wanted is the opportunity to love her honestly. In the end, Steffi and Jared finally began a relationship built on trust instead of fear. Steffi learns that loving someone doesn't not mean losing her independence, while Jared discovers that true love requires patience, understanding, and respect. Overall, Wild Affair is more than just a romance novel. It's a story about healing, forgiveness, and learning to trust again. The novel reminds us that our past may shape us, but it should never control our future. It also teaches us that people should be judged by their actions, not by our fears or assumptions. Sometimes, the greatest act of courage is simply giving someone a chance to prove that they are different. That's all from me. Thank you very much for listening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.